The cold void of space stretched endlessly, dotted with stars that burned like distant lanterns. On the edge of the Zirin cluster, the Galactic Tribunal convened in their towering crystalline halls. Dozens of alien delegates hovered in the air, their shapes shifting like liquid glass, their voices echoing with authority and disdain. All eyes were on the small figure trembling in the center of the chamber. Krill, the midget alien dragon, barely came up to the knees of the tallest delegates. Its scales were dull and thin, revealing the malnourishment that plagued its body. Its wings, more like delicate sheets of paper than the mighty sails of a dragon, quivered with every movement. The tribunal's decision was merciless. "You are weak, unworthy, and unfit for survival," intoned the chief arbiter, a towering four-armed creature with eyes like molten silver. "By the laws of the cluster, you are sentenced to exile on Varion 9, a dead and abandoned world. There you shall live. Or die." Krail lowered its head. The tribunal's words stung, but not as sharply as the laughter that rippled through the chamber. Other delegates muttered insults, calling Krill a malnourished hatchling and a mistake of nature. It felt smaller than ever, dwarfed by the hatred and cruelty that surrounded it. Then, without ceremony, the tribunal activated the exile beam, a shimmering column of light that enveloped Krill and pulled it from the chamber. The dragon's tiny heart pounded as stars twisted and streaked past its eyes. Fear and despair swirled inside, but beneath it all, a flicker of stubborn will refused to die. When Krill awoke, it found itself alone on Varion 9. The planet was a barren wasteland. Gray sands stretched endlessly beneath a dull, sickly green sky. Jagged mountains pierced the horizon like broken teeth. Acidic rain fell in bitter sheets, sizzling as it struck the cracked ground. Not a single living creature stirred, not a plant, not an insect, not even a bird. Krill's stomach growled, its strength sapped by hunger. It staggered forward, wings dragging, claws scraping against the rocky surface. Every step was agony, but movement was necessary. Death came for the idle. Krill's small mind focused on one thing: survival. Hours passed, and then days. Krill searched for shelter among the jagged cliffs, finding caves where the wind howled like a chorus of wailing spirits. Water was scarce, and the thin air made breathing a labor. Hunger gnawed at every muscle, turning its once dull scales into almost translucent paper. But Krill noticed something unusual. The sand beneath its claws seemed different in places. It wasn't ordinary soil. Buried beneath the surface were strange metal plates, ancient and etched with symbols that glowed faintly under Krill's touch. Curiosity overcame exhaustion. Using its claws, it unearthed one of the plates. Energy surged faintly through it, making Krill twitch involuntarily. A spark of something powerful, something old, resonated within the dragon. Meanwhile, far away, humans aboard the research vessel Horizon Voyager scanned the planet. Sensors detected unusual energy readings, faint but consistent. Scientists in the observation room leaned closer, whispering in astonishment. "Is that life?" asked Dr. Elena Martell, her eyes wide behind her glasses. "No, it can't be. Nothing should survive there. But something is alive," replied her colleague Marcus. "Tiny signals and movement. Look at the readings." "It's small, very small and weak, but it's there." Elena frowned, fascinated. "We should study it. Carefully. It might be the first intelligent life surviving in these conditions." Back on Varion 9, Krill's days and nights blurred together. Hunger drove it to gnaw on stones, to lick the sparse acidic puddles that dotted the landscape. It fell multiple times, dragged down by exhaustion, but each time it rose again. Something within it refused to give up. Hunger had once been weakness, but now it became purpose. One evening, Krill discovered a series of half-buried structures, the ruins of the planet's ancient civilization. Towers of metal, crumbled and rusted, stretched toward the sky like skeletons of giants. Krill's sharp eyes caught something moving. Shadows, not alive, but remnants of technology. Energy fields flickered and hummed faintly, responding to Krill's presence. Krill hesitated, then stepped inside one of the ruined halls. The air was stale and thick, but strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. Something stirred inside the dragon, a memory perhaps, or an instinct, guiding it to a central chamber where the remains of a massive engine lay dormant. It pulsed faintly, as if waiting for someone to awaken it. Days turned to weeks. Krill, tiny and frail, began to understand the rhythm of the planet. The winds revealed hidden caves. The rains washed clean the buried structures. and the faint energy pulses from the ruins whispered secrets. Krill learned to manipulate these energies slowly at first. Sparks danced along its claws. Tiny flames flickered along its wings when hunger became unbearable. One night, Krill curled atop a ruined tower, staring at the cold stars. Its body ached, its scales scraped by sand, but something within felt different. A spark of hope ignited. It realized that survival didn't depend on strength alone. It depended on will, intelligence, and the courage to keep moving forward, even when everything seemed lost. Far above, the humans continued to observe. Elena leaned closer to her console, mesmerized. It's learning. Somehow it's adapting. That little creature. It's remarkable. We have to see what it becomes. Marcus shook his head. Do you know what the tribunal did to it? They left it for dead, and yet it survives. Against everything. Against them, Elena smiled softly. This is why humans endure. We see potential where others see weakness. Sometimes the smallest, weakest being can become the greatest if given a chance. Krill, unaware of the human observers, discovered a hidden panel within the ruins. Touching it with its claw, energy surged through its tiny body. Pain mingled with a strange thrill, a sensation that made it feel larger, stronger, and more alive. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the ruins around it, and for the first time it lifted its wings fully, testing the air. They trembled but held. For the first time in its short, harsh life, Krill felt possibility. And somewhere far above, humans watched. They didn't know it yet, but Krill was no longer just a malnourished, exiled dragon. It was something more and something remarkable. And soon the universe would take notice. The first light of Varion 9's twin suns crept over the jagged horizon, turning the gray sands into streaks of amber. Krill, perched atop the ruins it had claimed as its home, stretched its tiny wings and flexed its claws. The energy that had surged through its body days ago had left a lingering warmth, like the faint pulse of a heartbeat. Something within it had shifted, not just its strength, but its mind. It felt alive in a new way. The planet remained harsh. Acidic rains still fell without warning, and violent windstorms carved deep trenches into the landscape. But Krill moved with purpose now, its steps lighter, its senses sharper. It began to explore the ruins more deliberately, scanning walls for patterns, symbols, or mechanisms that might respond to its touch. One of the halls contained a strange console, partially buried beneath debris. Its buttons were cracked, its screens flickered weakly. Krill touched it with a claw, and a soft hum resonated through the air. Lights danced across the floor, forming geometric patterns that Krill instinctively understood. It pushed another symbol, a triangle, and suddenly, a small hologram flickered to life, showing a map of the planet and glowing points of energy buried below the surface. Krill tilted its head, puzzled yet fascinated. This was a world of secrets and perhaps power. Hunger still gnawed at it, but curiosity was stronger now. It began digging carefully at the points marked on the map, uncovering small capsules containing strange devices. When Krill touched them, faint sparks danced along its claws. Each touch seemed to awaken something dormant, not just in the devices, but in Krill itself. Meanwhile, far above in orbit, the human research ship Horizon Voyager continued its silent observation. Sensors had picked up the new energy surges. Another spike, said Dr. Elena Martel, leaning over the console. Her eyes shone with excitement. It's stronger than before. Look at this pattern. The energy is intelligent, responding to the environment. It's learning. Marcus, sitting next to her, shook his head in awe. Learning? That little creature? It's adapting faster than anything I've ever seen. How can something so small survive here? Elena smiled. That's what humans do. We see the impossible and find a way. Perhaps it's not just survival instinct, perhaps it's creativity. Back on the planet, Krill felt a sudden surge of heat in its chest. Its wings lifted involuntarily, small flames flickering along their edges. Shocked, it stumbled backward, wings trembling. It stared at its claws. Tiny arcs of electricity danced across them, leaving scorch marks in the sand. Fear gripped Krill. Was this dangerous? Was it breaking itself? And yet, a part of it thrilled at the discovery. It realized its weakness, once a mark of ridicule, had hidden potential. Its hunger, its small size, its fragile body. These had forced it to think, adapt, and now survive in ways bigger, stronger beings could never. The humans, still observing, noticed the spike. "Energy signature is off the charts," Marcus whispered. "Whatever it's doing, it's changing itself, enhancing itself." Elena frowned, tapping at the console. "We need to be careful. If it senses us too soon, it could panic. But this is incredible. A small creature, surviving alone, awakening latent abilities. It's showing resilience, intelligence, and adaptability. We could learn so much from it." Krill spent the next several days experimenting with its newfound powers. It learned to control the tiny sparks along its claws, creating small tools from the energy. A broken door panel could be lifted with a wave of its claw. A collapsed passage could be cleared by focused bursts of energy. Krill's intelligence began to expand in parallel with its powers. It wasn't just surviving, it was mastering its environment. During this time, Krill discovered another hidden chamber in the ruins. Unlike the others, this room hummed with warmth, almost as if it were alive. The walls pulsed with faint blue light, and strange glyphs moved in rhythmic patterns. As Krill stepped inside, a voice, or perhaps an echo of thought, whispered in its mind, "Survivor, worthy, awaken." Krill froze. The voice was not alien, not hostile. It was a call, subtle and guiding. Following the sensation, Krill touched the central glyph, and a wave of energy rippled through its small body. Memories that were not its own flooded its mind. Visions of a civilization that had once thrived on this planet. Creatures capable of manipulating energy, surviving impossible odds, and creating wonders that spanned worlds. Krill felt a spark of understanding. These powers had been lying dormant, waiting for the right being to inherit them. For the first time, Krill felt hope. Not mere survival, but purpose. It could do more than exist here. It could thrive. High above, humans discussed the new developments. Elena leaned forward, her hands pressed against the glass of the observation deck. "It's awakening. I've never seen anything like this. It's becoming more than its body suggests. We could help subtly without interfering too much." Marcus nodded slowly. "Do we dare? If the aliens who exiled it find out, they'll come for it, maybe destroy it. But if we intervene carefully, we might see a miracle." The humans decided on a cautious approach. Using remote drones, they began dropping small caches of food and water in safe locations. The technology was advanced enough to remain invisible to the exiling aliens. Krill, suspicious at first, eventually discovered the small gifts. Hunger. Clawed at it, but curiosity guided it to investigate these gifts. It recognized the subtle care in the placement. Someone was watching, someone was helping. Trust grew slowly, and with it, Krill's strength. Energy that had once flickered faintly now surged with purpose. Wings lifted fully for the first time, carrying the dragon in small hops across the ruined terrain. Its body, though still small, moved with precision and confidence. The hunger remained, but it was no longer despair. It was fuel, driving Krill to explore, adapt, and learn. Then came the first real test. A violent storm, unlike any Krill had encountered, swept across the plains. Acidic rain fell in sheets, winds strong enough to uproot the few remaining structures. Krill struggled against it, its tiny wings flapping desperately. But before exhaustion claimed it, a drone from the Horizon Voyager activated, creating a shield bubble around the dragon. The storm raged outside, but Krill remained safe, staring in awe at the shimmering barrier that had protected it. For the first time, Krill felt gratitude toward humans. It realized they were unlike the tribunal, unlike the alien races that had mocked and punished it. Humans did not see weakness as failure. Humans saw potential. When the storm passed, Krill stepped out of the protective bubble, wings lifted and claws scorched from practice, and looked toward the horizon. There was more to discover. The planet held secrets. Its powers were growing, and somewhere beyond the stars humans were watching, silently, patiently, as Krill began to awaken into something greater than anyone had expected. The night fell, twin moons rising over the ruins. Krill curled in, a hidden chamber, energy pulsing faintly across its tiny body. It no longer felt the fear that had once consumed it. The hunger, the cold, the exile, these were no longer enemies. They were catalysts, pushing it to grow, to learn, to adapt. And deep in orbit, humans smiled, marveling at the resilience of a single small life form. Humanity's touch was subtle, but its influence was clear. Sometimes the greatest victories came not through force, but through understanding, empathy, and the courage to give a chance to the seemingly weakest. Krill, the exiled, malnourished dragon, stirred in the ruins of a dead world. It was no longer merely surviving, it was awakening. The wind howled across the barren plains of Varion 9, but Krill no longer flinched. Its tiny wings flared, carrying it over jagged cliffs with newfound confidence. Every movement was deliberate, precise, a mix of instinct and growing intelligence. The dragon had learned to read the subtle patterns of the planet, the way the winds shifted, the hidden energy flows beneath the sand, and the faint hums that emanated from the ancient ruins. Krill had been alone for so long that the idea of company seemed distant. Yet high above the planet, humans aboard the Horizon Voyager watched silently. Their advanced sensors had tracked every energy surge, every flutter of movement, and now they were preparing for a cautious first approach. Energy readings are stabilizing, Dr. Elena Martel said, leaning over the console. It's learning fast. Whatever it's doing, it's intelligent, far more than we anticipated. Marcus nodded, eyes fixed on the holographic map. We can't just observe anymore. We need to make contact carefully without frightening it. Elena tapped a few commands. We'll use the drones first. Small, non-intrusive. We can leave supplies, communicate subtly, and gauge its response. Below, Krill was experimenting with a new discovery. It had learned to manipulate small energy currents in the ruins, shaping them into forms it could recognize. Tiny walls, barriers, and even crude tools could be created with the pulse of its claws. Hunger still gnawed at its belly, but it had learned to manage the energy that flared in response to need. Then, a soft hum resonated through the air. Krill froze. Small hovering objects glowing faintly with human technology descended from the sky. At first, Krill crouched in fear. Its claws sparked instinctively, wings spreading to defend itself. But something about the pattern of the drones, gentle, precise, almost hesitant, told Krill that these were not threats. One drone approached closer than the others, projecting a faint holographic image. A human face appeared, Elena's, calm and steady. Krill's eyes widened. The voice that followed was soft but clear, resonating in its mind through the drone's subtle neural interface. "Do not be afraid," Elena said. "We mean no harm. We want to help you." Krill tilted its head, unsure. Could it trust this strange presence? It had been betrayed, punished, and abandoned before. Weakness had been mocked. But something in the tone, firm, confident, yet kind, made Krill pause. I survive, Krill replied mentally, unsure of how to transmit words, but finding that the drones responded to intent as much as sound. "Yes," Elena said, smiling. "And you are remarkable. We can see it. We want to help you understand your powers and survive in this harsh world." For hours, the drones circled Krill, delivering small caches of food and water, carefully placed to avoid startling it. Krill examined them, sniffing, tasting, and finally understanding their purpose. The hunger that had been a constant torment eased slightly, replaced by curiosity and cautious trust. Night fell over Varian 9, twin moons rising over the ruined landscape. Krill curled in a shallow cave, the drones hovering silently nearby. For the first time, the dragon felt something it had not felt since the tribunal sentence: companionship. Not friendship exactly, but awareness that another intelligence cared, and perhaps even respected it. Over the next few days, Krill and the humans continued this delicate dance of trust. The dragon began to experiment with its powers in new ways. Small objects could be levitated, Crude energy shields formed to deflect sandstorms and rudimentary tools crafted from fragments of metal and stone. Krill's intelligence had expanded alongside its abilities. It could solve puzzles, recognize patterns, and even anticipate environmental hazards. Elena and Marcus observed eagerly. "It's amazing," Marcus said, watching the holographic feed. "It's learning from the environment and from us. It's evolving faster than anything we've studied before." Elena nodded. "This is what humans do best. We teach, we guide, and we empower. Sometimes the smallest, weakest beings can become the most capable when given the right help and the freedom to grow." Krill began to communicate more clearly with the drones, developing a crude system of symbols and gestures. It discovered that it could push energy in precise ways to manipulate objects at a distance, the first real sign that it could control not just its body, but its surroundings. Then, a sudden danger arrived. A violent sandstorm stronger than any Krill had seen swept across the plains. Winds tore at the ruins and acidic rain fell in blinding sheets. Krill's instinct was to hide, but the storm was relentless. Without hesitation, the drones activated shields around it, creating pockets of calm in the chaos. Krill leapt and flapped, testing its powers in combination with the human technology. Sparks danced along its wings, forming energy barriers that helped reinforce the shields. After the storm passed, Krill had learned something crucial. Humans were not just allies. They were partners. The technology they provided, combined with Krill's innate abilities, could turn vulnerability into strength. The dragon's confidence grew. Its wings lifted higher, its claws sparked brighter, and its mind raced with new possibilities. Days later, Krill followed a faint energy signature deep within the ruins. It led to a hidden chamber untouched by the storms. Symbols on the walls glowed softly, responding to Krill's presence. Here, Krill discovered more advanced machinery, remnants of the planet's lost civilization. As it touched the panels, energy surged through its body, stronger than ever before. The humans monitored the surge from orbit. "It's accessing something." "Ancient," Elena whispered. "Whatever this dragon is discovering, it's beyond anything we expected. It's learning from the planet itself, and our interventions are amplifying that." Krill began to manipulate the energy with precision. Small tools, barriers, even defensive traps could be created with minimal effort. Its body, though still small, moved with grace and efficiency. Hunger and exhaustion were no longer limiting factors. They were catalysts, pushing it to adapt and innovate. Then came the first real conversation between dragon and human, mediated through the drones. Krill's mental voice, jagged but growing stronger, projected a question. "Why, help me?" Elena's holographic face smiled gently. "Because weakness is not failure. Potential is not measured by size or strength. We see what others ignore. We help because it is the right thing to do, and because we can imagine what you might become." Krill paused, the words echoing in its mind. For the first time, it felt seen. Not as a weakling, not as a punishment, but as a being capable of growth, creativity, and strength. The days turned into weeks. Krill's powers grew, guided by instinct, necessity, and subtle human intervention. The dragon began to take small steps beyond survival, crafting defenses for the ruins, experimenting with flight patterns, and even creating energy traps to catch scavengers. It was no longer prey. It was a predator in its own right, cunning, resourceful, and intelligent. The humans, watching from orbit, realized that Krill's evolution was not just natural. It was a partnership. Their understanding, their technology, and their empathy had unlocked potential that no one else had believed possible. "This is why humanity survives," Elena said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "We lift others, empower them, and in doing so, we make the universe notice." One night, Krill perched atop the tallest ruin, wings stretched wide against the twin moons. It could feel the planet's energy pulsing beneath its claws, the subtle hum of machines, the guidance of humans watching silently from above. The dragon had changed. No longer weak, no longer insignificant, Krill was awakening to its true potential. And somewhere in the stars, humanity smiled, knowing that even on a distant, abandoned world, the combination of human ingenuity and the spirit of life could create something extraordinary. Krill lifted its wings fully, catching the wind. Sparks of energy flared along its body. The exiled, malnourished dragon was no longer merely surviving. It was learning, adapting, and preparing for what was to come. A universe that had mocked it would soon learn. Weakness is only a challenge. Strength is created, nurtured, and sometimes inspired by others, and the humans had just begun. Krill had grown stronger, smarter, and more confident than anyone could have imagined. The small dragon that had once been frail and malnourished now moved with precision and grace, weaving through the jagged ruins of Varian 9 like a creature perfectly adapted to its environment. Its wings, though still delicate, carried it through the thin air with surprising strength. Sparks of energy traced along its claws and tail as it experimented with new ways to manipulate the planet's hidden powers. High above, the humans aboard the Horizon Voyager continued to watch. Dr. Elena Martel and Marcus studied the energy readings, their excitement tempered by unease. "I'm concerned," Marcus said, frowning. "The Tribunal, the aliens who exiled it, they will notice these energy surges. They won't ignore this." Elena nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the monitor. "We expected that. Krill has awakened, yes, but now the real test begins. Humanity has helped it survive, but can we help it defend itself against the forces that punished it?" Meanwhile, in a distant system, the Galactic Tribunal convened once more. Hollow images of Krill's energy spikes flickered across their chambers. Delegates hissed and muttered in disbelief. "That weak, insignificant creature, it has grown beyond what we anticipated," one delegate growled. "We punished it, and yet somehow it thrives. This cannot stand." Another, a sleek serpentine being, narrowed its eyes. "It must be eliminated. A weak dragon is one thing, but a creature capable of this. Combined with the humans' interference, it could destabilize the cluster." Orders were given. A fleet of alien warships armed with energy cannons capable of annihilating entire moons was dispatched to Varian 9. Their mission was simple: destroy Krill and any humans assisting it. Back on the planet, Krill sensed the change in the stars. Energy ripples, subtle but distinct, warned it of an approaching force. Its wings lifted instinctively, claws sparking, ready for whatever was coming. Then distant rumbling echoed across the plains. Shadowy shapes grew larger on the horizon, sleek, dark warships descending from the skies, their energy weapons glowing ominously. Krill's small chest swelled with determination. Fear had existed once, but it was no longer the master of its mind. The drones hovered closer, projecting Elena's holographic face. "Krill, stay calm. You are stronger than they know. We can help you defend the planet, but you must follow our guidance." Krill tilted its head, sparks dancing along its wings. "I fight," it thought. "Yes," Elena said. "And together we will be smarter than them. Humans do not fight with brute strength alone. We use strategy, ingenuity, and planning. They will underestimate us, just like they always underestimate the smallest, weakest beings." As the first alien ships unleashed energy pulses, Krill responded instinctively. It leapt into the air, flapping its wings to dodge the initial blasts. Sparks arced from its claws, forming energy shields that deflected smaller projectiles. It had learned to combine its powers with the humans' technology. Drones projected protective fields, while Krill's energy attacks disrupted the aliens' targeting systems. On board the Horizon Voyager, Elena and Marcus coordinated the defense. "Focus on the environmental traps," Elena instructed. "Use the planet itself. Krill's powers in the ruins can be a weapon." Marcus tapped commands into the ship's console, sending drones to strategically collapse sections of the ruined towers, creating debris fields. Krill understood immediately, weaving through the collapsing metal and energy barriers, luring enemy ships into the traps. Energy arcs shot from its claws, guiding debris to collide with the alien vessels, tearing their hulls. The aliens were stunned. They had expected an easy target, a small, malnourished dragon, exiled and weak. Instead, Krill was everywhere at once, fast, intelligent, and impossible to anticipate. Their attacks faltered as energy shields flickered and collapsed under coordinated strikes from the dragon and the drones. Krill's wings flared, sparks trailing like fiery ribbons. It darted from ruin to ruin, creating energy traps that manipulated the terrain. Rocks and fragments lifted into the air, forming barriers and projectiles. The alien ships were forced to dodge constantly, their formations breaking under the chaos. "This is incredible," Marcus said, eyes wide. "It's turning the planet itself into a weapon." Elena nodded. "It's using strategy, not brute force. That is the true power of intelligence. Humans survive because we think, plan, and adapt. And now Krill is doing the same. One particularly large alien ship unleashed a massive energy beam, threatening to flatten the central ruins. Krill focused its energy, creating a shield reinforced by the drone's protective fields. Sparks flared, arcs of electricity dancing across the surface, and the beam struck the barrier, only to disperse harmlessly. The dragon's small body trembled under the effort, but it did not falter. Then Krill realized something crucial. The aliens' fleet moved with predictable patterns, relying on speed and firepower, but lacking creativity. Krill could anticipate their movements, using the planet's ruins and energy channels to manipulate their attacks against them. With a series of carefully timed bursts, it redirected debris, created false energy signatures, and forced the alien ships into collisions. One by one, the enemy vessels began to falter. Sparks and explosions dotted the horizon as Krill's ingenuity, combined with human guidance, turned the battle in its favor. The smallest, weakest dragon in the cluster had become an unstoppable force, not through raw strength but through intelligence, creativity, and partnership. From orbit, humans cheered silently. Elena's voice trembled with awe. This is why we endure, not because we are the strongest, but because we are the smartest. We find ways where others see none. We empower others to do what they cannot do alone. The alien fleet, demoralized and confused, attempted a retreat. Krill, sensing victory, lifted high into the skies, sparks trailing like a crown of fire. With a final surge of energy, it created a barrier that blocked the path of the retreating vessels, sending them scattering in panic. The tribunal would not forget this day. Their punishment, intended to humiliate and destroy, had failed spectacularly. A malnourished, exiled dragon had survived, adapted, and triumphed, with humans as its allies. As silence fell over the battered plains, Krill landed atop a ruined tower, wings flaring, claws sparking faintly. Its small body trembled, not from exhaustion alone, but from the rush of triumph. For the first time, it felt the pride of survival, of intelligence, and of partnership. Below, the planet itself seemed to pulse with energy, as if acknowledging the dragon's victory. The ruins, once dead and lifeless, now glowed faintly, humming in resonance with Krill's energy. This planet, abandoned and forgotten, had become a fortress, a sanctuary, and a testament to resilience. Elena's hologram appeared once more. You did it, Krill. You defended yourself, the planet, and everything we helped you protect. You have shown what intelligence, courage, and teamwork can accomplish. And you've done it in a way that no one could have predicted, not even the tribunal. Krill stared at the image, sparks dancing along its wings. I'd survive. I'd strong. Ready. Yes, Elena said. And now we prepare for what comes next. The universe will notice. Others will see that even the smallest, weakest beings can achieve the impossible with courage, intelligence, and allies who believe in them. For the first time since its exile, Krill looked not at survival, but at the horizon, thinking of the future. It had faced punishment, cruelty, and near death, yet it had emerged victorious. Not through raw power alone, but through strategy, adaptability, and the partnership with humans who had seen its potential when no one else did. The battle was over, but Krill knew this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, full of dangers and challenges, and far too many who underestimated the smallest and weakest. But Krill had learned a powerful lesson. With intelligence, resilience, and allies, even the weakest could stand against the strongest. High above, the Horizon Voyager monitored the aftermath. Elena and Marcus exchanged glances. This is only the start, Marcus said. But humanity has done what it always does. We've empowered someone who others wrote off as weak. And together, we've changed the course of events. Elena nodded. Krill is no longer just an exiled dragon. It is a symbol, a living example of what intelligence, courage, and partnership can achieve. And the galaxy will never forget it. As night fell over the glowing ruins, Krill stretched its wings, sparks dancing like fireflies. It was no longer merely surviving. It had triumphed. It had adapted. And with humans by its side, it was ready for whatever the universe would throw next. The exiled, malnourished dragon had become a legend. The twin suns of Varian 9 rose over the jagged horizon, casting long shadows across the ruins. Krill, perched atop the highest tower of the ancient city, stretched its wings and flexed its claws. Sparks of energy flickered along its scales, trailing like tiny comets in the thin morning air. The exiled dragon, once malnourished and weak, now radiated confidence, strength, and intelligence. Below, the ruins hummed faintly, alive with energy awakened by Krill's presence. The planet, abandoned and forgotten for centuries, had become a sanctuary, a fortress, and a laboratory for its new master. Every corner of the ruins had been explored, every hidden mechanism tested and understood. Krill had transformed the desolate world into a domain where it could thrive. From orbit, the Horizon Voyager watched quietly. Humans had maintained a cautious distance, letting Krill grow and learn without direct interference, intervening only when absolutely necessary. Yet their presence had been felt. Subtle energy shields, carefully placed supplies, and guidance in times of danger had allowed Krill to survive and awaken its latent abilities. Dr. Elena Martell and Marcus watched the feed, their eyes wide with pride. "It's incredible," Elena said softly. "From a malnourished, exiled creature to this, a master of its environment, intelligent, resourceful, and capable of defending itself against fleets that once seemed unstoppable." Marcus nodded. "And it's not just surviving, and it's thriving. Humans have helped, yes, but Krill did the work. This is what makes our species special. We recognize potential, we nurture it, and we watch it grow into something extraordinary." On the planet, Krill felt a strange sensation, not hunger, not fear, not anger, but purpose. It had survived storms, hunger, isolation, and alien punishment. It had fought fleets, outsmarted enemies, and harnessed powers no one had believed it could control. And now, for the first time, Krill looked forward not just to survival but to building, exploring, and protecting. Krill descended from the tower, landing carefully among the ruins. Its energy sparks illuminated corridors and hidden chambers, revealing new paths and mechanisms. The dragon's mind, once limited by fear and weakness, now pulsed with ideas. It could expand its domain, uncover more of the planet's secrets, and even communicate more effectively with the humans who had watched, guided, and protected it. Then came the first visitors. Small human teams, carefully shielded by advanced technology, landed near the ruins. Krill observed them warily at first, sparks dancing along its wings as a warning. But the humans approached with caution, keeping a respectful distance, and Krill felt the trust that had been built over weeks solidify into a bond. "Elena," Marcus said, as he gestured toward the dragon, "look at how it's observing us. It knows we're allies now, not just helpers but partners, and it's deciding how we fit into its world." Elena nodded. "That's exactly what we hoped for. Humans do more than survive. We empower, we inspire, and sometimes we guide those who might otherwise be forgotten. Krill is the perfect example." Krill moved closer, its wings folding gracefully against its body. Sparks traced its claws as it touched the ground near the human's equipment, examining it carefully. The drones hovered around, translating gestures, projecting subtle holographic messages. Krill's eyes glowed faintly as it interacted, testing, understanding, and learning. The humans shared their knowledge, subtle, non-intrusive guidance on energy manipulation, environmental control, and strategic thinking. Krill absorbed it eagerly, combining its innate abilities with human ingenuity. Together they began constructing new devices, using the ruins' ancient energy systems as foundations. Barriers, energy conduits, and even small power generators hummed to life under Krill's claws and wings, guided by human insight. Then the planet itself seemed to respond. Energy pulses resonated through the ruins, flickering in patterns that Krill understood instinctively. The long-dead systems, once inert, now awakened under its guidance. Small structures rose from the sands, automated defenses formed, and the environment became not just habitable but protective, efficient, and alive. Elena watched from orbit, awestruck. Krill is turning this planet into a living fortress. It's not just survival anymore. It's adaptation, evolution, and intelligence combined. Humans helped, yes, but this is beyond anything we could have planned, Marcus added quietly. And that's what makes humanity special. We don't just conquer, we cultivate. We don't just fight when we teach and inspire. Krill is the perfect example of that philosophy in action. Krill, perched atop the central tower, looked out over the horizon. Its eyes reflected the twin suns, and sparks traced its wings like fire. The dragon's body pulsed with power, its mind sharp and agile. But its heart carried something even more important. understanding. Strength alone could not have achieved this. Intelligence, adaptability, and partnership had created this moment. Then, distant signals flickered across the planet's surface. Other alien observers, curious after the recent battle, had detected Krill's awakening. Fleets that had once mocked it now hesitated, sensing a force far greater than expected. Krill spread its wings, sparks flaring, and a faint energy pulse radiated across the plains. The planet itself seemed to acknowledge its master. The humans decided it was time to share the story. Broadcasts were sent across nearby star systems, careful to avoid the tribunal but enough to show other civilizations. Images of Krill, the exiled, malnourished dragon now thriving, spread quickly, accompanied by data on the partnership with humans. Stories circulated, how humans had empowered Krill, guided it, and allowed it to transform a dead world into a fortress of intelligence and energy. Responses varied. Some alien species marveled, others feared. But one thing became clear across the galaxy. Humanity was different. Humans didn't just survive. They saw potential where others saw weakness. They empowered, inspired, and guided. And in doing so, they could change the universe in ways no fleet or tribunal could ever fully anticipate. Krill began rebuilding the central ruins. Towers rose higher, corridors became efficient, and energy systems hummed like a living heartbeat. Small creatures from distant worlds, curious and unthreatened by Krill, began to approach. Krill allowed them to explore, guiding their learning subtly, creating a sanctuary of life and knowledge. The dragon's once lonely exile had become a center of life, growth, and innovation. Humans visited occasionally, observing and assisting subtly, always respecting Krill's autonomy. Krill, in turn, had learned from them strategy, ingenuity, patience, and the power of collaboration. The dragon's mind, once limited by fear and weakness, now pulsed with intelligence and purpose. High above the planet, Elena and Marcus exchanged a look. "This is the true human legacy," Elena said. "Not just exploration, not just survival, but the ability to empower life, to create growth and change where others see only decay." Marcus nodded. "And Krill is the perfect symbol. Small, exiled, underestimated, and now a master of its environment, intelligent, strong, and free. That's HFY in action." As night fell, Krill perched atop the highest tower, wings spread wide, sparks trailing like ribbons of light. It looked toward the stars, aware of distant civilizations, the humans watching, and the vastness of space beyond. The journey had been long, harsh, and filled with pain. But it had led to this moment: survival, mastery, and a legacy that would inspire countless others. For the first time, Krill understood that strength was not measured by size, hunger, or punishment endured. Strength was measured by intelligence, creativity, resilience, and the ability to work with others. The exiled, malnourished dragon had become a living testament to that truth. And humanity, quietly observing from orbit, had proven its own enduring principle: to recognize potential, to nurture it, and to empower greatness in even the smallest, weakest beings. The galaxy would remember this day. Krill would remember it. And humans, the quiet, observant species from a small blue world, had reminded the universe why they endured, thrived, and inspired. The twin suns set over the glowing ruins. Sparks danced along Krill's wings. Energy pulsed through the towers and corridors. Life, intelligence, and ingenuity had conquered isolation, exile, and doubt. The malnourished midget dragon was no longer exiled. It was a master, a guardian, and a symbol, and the story of its awakening, powered by its own resilience and humanity's guiding hand, would echo across the stars for generations to come. Krill spread its wings fully, lifting into the sky, trailing sparks like stars falling toward the planet. It soared above the ruins, over the plains, and into the horizon, ready for whatever the universe might send next. It had survived. It had triumphed. And it had left a legacy that would endure forever. The galaxy would never forget.